quick run through of my side project talk. It's a talk I give to schools, or one of my talks that I give to schools, and it's been really well met recently. It's a presentation designed to encourage pupils to take up their own projects, explore their own ideas out of the school environment in the home. So let's get started. This is #SideProject. It starts with a brief introduction about myself. So what does Jez do? Well, Jez, by day, he's a programmer and tutor. And by night, well, I found it hard to describe what it is, but a pursuer of projects seems to fit the bill quite well, with an emphasis on toy tinkering. So I like to take apart old broken toys, electronic toys, and sort of repurpose them and make them better than what they were originally intended for. And this talk sort of talks about a couple of my projects and the avenues and the doors they've sort of opened, and I talk a bit about the people I met and where it's led me. So even at this early stage, I'm sort of hitting home that to the pupils that creativity doesn't finish at 5:30 or whatever time school finishes. You know, home is an ideal place in your own time to get stuck in, figure out how things work, make those mistakes that you might feel uneasy about making in front of people or front of an audience, but just get stuck in and start exploring and discovering and working on your own ideas, because you never know where it might end up. So this is about a project of mine called Woggle, Jez and the Woggle Adventure. Now Woggle is similar to Alexa. We're all familiar with Amazon's Dot, Amazon's Alexa. It's a chatbot basically. So we sort of talk to it, it processes what we've given it, and it presents us with a suitable, appropriate output. So when we start breaking down that process, we can see in this slide that it awaits an input, input's received, we process what it's received, and it presents us with an output, and then we repeat back to the start again. So taking that very, very simple flowchart, I decided to make my own chatbot. Now this is a couple of years ago now, and I used Scratch to start with, and Scratch is excuse me, Scratch is a great tool for just prototyping ideas. I think Scratch gets a bit of a bad press because it looks very basic and it's colourful, and people assume that it's aimed at the young, the infants, but far from it. I still use it now to thrash out ideas, to discover if things would work, and once you've got that framework, then you can you easily convert it into Python, and that's what I've done in this case. I use a Raspberry Pi to do it, and a little screen there, as you can see, and you can start talking to it. It's quite a little fun chatbot, and I really enjoyed it, and I was so proud of it that I made a video. And I made the video, and something at the back of my mind was telling me, not to post it online. I don't know why. Maybe I think I was nervous at the time. You hear about all the bad things about what people comment and the bad press they get from it, and yeah, I was a bit apprehensive at first about posting it, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I took that brave step, because not only is the community really welcoming for people who are just tinkering and trialing ideas, but the video gave traction, and I'm so glad I did it, because I was looking for a quote that sums it up, and I found one. We compare our behind the scenes with everyone's highlights reel, because we only see the polished versions, don't we, of what everybody's been doing. We don't see the struggle and the hard work that's been invested behind the scenes, and I think that puts a lot of people off. Puts a lot of people off making something, thinking it's not good enough, because if the idea is sound and if you've enjoyed it, who's to say that, there'll be someone else out there who will enjoy it too, and you won't know until you try. And as a result, it's got over 22,000 views, which isn't that much when you compare it to the big hitters of YouTube. But for me personally, that told me that there was a need for that. People were interested and people were starting to interact with me. It was brilliant. I've gone on to make other videos, and it's not my most popular. My most popular one is the Furby. The Furby that I took apart and circuit bent and got it to read out my emails. Yeah, circuit bending's brilliant. You get a piece of wire, and as you can see in the picture, you take it apart, take whatever electronic toy apart, make sure it's battery driven, not mains driven, of course, and you start touching various points on the circuit board to see what happens. And sometimes the Furby started blinking and shaking a bit uncontrollably. Sometimes it's smoked, so we won't be touching those 2 points again. But in the end, I was able to work out what controlled its movements. And from then on, I was able to take what I found out and sort of build this crude model using a Raspberry Pi again that allowed the Furby to check my inbox and read out and move accordingly when I received a new email in my inbox. And to date, that's received over 36,000 views, which is just bonkers for something like me, because it's only a 19 second video, and that's just crazy. So yeah, back to Woggle then. I'm glad I posted the video online, and it, like I said, it got people chatting and interacting with me, and I always make time where possible to get back to them, because if they've taken the time to write to me, it's only fair that I comment back. So I invested at first a lot of time in getting back to people, and it's there that I met a few people and got to know and interact with some interesting people. One in particular got in touch, and he said, "Hello, I saw your Woggle video and I'd like to invite you to an event I'm holding." And now this event was a Comic-Con in Southampton, and this chap hosts them down there, and he very kindly invited me along and free of charge gave me a table that I could have to display my chatbot Woggle. Now this is where it starts to get interesting, but as it says there, I had to fill a table. A table is pretty big to fill, regardless of whatever size, and my Raspberry Pi Woggle chatbot, it can fit in the palm of your hand, so I had to fill something, find something to fill my table with. So I looked at it was a couple of late nights. I work better with a tight deadline, but yeah, I rebranded it, so you can make your own Jarvis. So I don't know whether you've seen the Iron Man film, so I put that spin on it because it was a sci-fi convention that I was at. I was able to plug Woggle into Minecraft, as you can see there. So you go to a particular place in the Minecraft world, put down a block, and Woggle is able to start interacting and chatting with you. I also made copies of Woggle to hand out, free of charge, out of my own pocket, along with some documentation. And although my table looked, well, like it was thrown together overnight, which it was, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As long as, like I said, as long as the idea is there, and you can show off how you've really enjoyed this project, people will gravitate towards you. And this is exactly what happened. I spoke to so many people at that event. It was lovely, absolutely brilliant. And yeah, Woggle got to chat with so many people with different interests and different ways and different sense of humours. One thing I didn't mention is Woggle learns. So the more people talk to it, the more it learns. And I couldn't buy that information that I gathered at that event from talking to people. It was just people were enjoying my projects and happy to contribute by talking to it. and some went away with their own version. And yeah, I'll go into that later, what's happened off the back of that. I went to a few more events, and I actually was pitched up against a couple of my all-time heroes. Simon Hickson was from my childhood days, where he was on telly, completely bonkers, and he is completely bonkers now. And one thing you'll see with photos of me in, that I can't pose properly. I have to pull a funny face. I also met the Star Wars and Harry Potter actor, Michael Hembury. Both were the nicest people ever, and it was really nice to show off Woggle to these chaps who I've admired for years and years. It got better. I started mixing with droid builders and prop builders who were also at various events, and when I got chatting with them and showing off Woggle, they said, "Why don't you build Woggle into a droid?" But I said, no, that is I can't even begin to imagine where I start with that. But they said, don't worry, I know a man who might be able to help. So we tracked him down. This is James from X-Robots UK, and you can see in the background, he was one of the first people to sort of reverse engineer BB-8 when the Star Wars film came out, and he was able to build his own. Now, he's built several BB-8s since then, but yeah, look out for him online. His projects are just amazing, and it all started with him tinkering at home in his attic, you know, trying to try out ideas, sticking them online, and just getting stuck in. Again, I can't have a photo taken of me without pulling a funny face, but we'll move on. Nice chap, really, really nice chap, really helpful. And he said, well, can't you just, if you don't want to build your own droid, can't you just put it in a toy or something? Brilliant idea. Now, I have a son who has lots of Star Wars mad friends, and they all had Star Wars toys, so it took me a while, but I waited and waited till one of those toys broke. And I made sure I was in the right place at the right time when it did. And as luck would have it, a broken BB-8 toy came my way. So I started looking at how we could get Woggle into BB-8. So, yeah, using Scratch again, we can control motors. Not a lot of people know that you can control motors and lights with Scratch. Again, it's going off that assumption that Scratch is aimed for the infants and younger children, but this isn't the case. You can do a lot with Scratch. You can play sounds, and we can get it to run automatically, but as you interact with Woggle via a keyboard, it might be difficult to do with a spherical robot like BB-8. So I thought about building an app, and I found App Inventor. App Inventor is very much like Scratch, as you can see, drag and drop blocks, and as I wanted to sort of involve the kids, because it was, you know, their toys I was pinching off them, I wanted to involve them, and we started reworking Woggle, but from an app point of view, using App Inventor. And before long, we had something up and running, which I called Droid Chat. So, as you can see here, we've got the motor control and the sound effects contained in BB-8, and we also have it in app form, running off a smartphone. So you interact with the smartphone via voice or text, and BB-8 is able to respond in English, in spoken English, back to you. He can hold a conversation. He has a large database of replies thanks to all the events that I went to and all the people who helped contribute to him by interacting with him. He's able to tell jokes and stories, send secret messages. Basically, any project that my son came home with, I incorporated it into Woggle or BB-8. So his functionality just grows and grows and grows. He's able to play the radio. He's able to answer questions. So when he's actually online, he's actually able to go off and query Google for an appropriate answer and come back. but he's always learning. He's always learning. So the more I play with him, the more interaction he gets, the more intelligent he appears to become. So what's happening now? Well, remember those things I was handing out at the shows? I was handing out copies of Woggle. Well, they've gone all over the world. Actually, they've been in Germany. They're used as a teaching aid in the States. They're in art exhibitions. Actually, they're in a couple of art exhibitions, which I find just amazing, absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's amazing how far a good idea will travel. And bear in mind, this was all done off a table, held together with a bit of cloth and sellotape and a whiteboard. The app, I'm polishing up the app, so I'm going to release it to the App Store for everybody to enjoy. So again, have a bigger audience, so more people interact with it, so it will learn more. It will just keep snowballing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm actually putting together some electronics kits as well to help people with their own ideas. So again, starting with scratch, starting off nice and simple, and putting together electronics kits that will allow people to control motors and lights via scratch blocks. I'm also running classes now, and the chatbots play a really important role, especially in my advanced classes, as we sort of move into Python. And it's a good exercise that appeals to all, because the pupils can tailor it to however they want. I'm also putting together chatterbox kits, so plug and play basically. So those who don't want to, necessarily learn how to make their own, but they would like their own just to play with and train and chat to, I'm putting together little Raspberry Pi kits as well. And again, holding classes, I actually set up a business now that will teach children how to code basically, but in a fun and creative way, drawing on my experiences that Woggle has given me, and hopefully it encourages others to do the same. And finally, I try and finish the talk with a few inspiring thoughts to leave people with. Okay, the first is, there has never been a better time to learn new skills. There's no excuse. There is no excuse. A problem solution is just a Google away. And like I said, the community out there for makers is so welcoming, so friendly, that just get stuck in. There will always be someone who will give you the time to help you. Okay, just look at my video. If nerves got the better of me and I didn't post that first video, none of this would have happened. So get stuck in and get learning and just get meeting people. It's great. It's brilliant. And finally, wrong way. Don't be afraid to be original. Okay, so it's the ideas that matter. So if you've got a really unique idea, or you've taken an existing idea but looked at it from a different point of view, don't be afraid to show off that idea. Don't be afraid to put it out there and see what happens, because you never know. And finally, I wanted to finish on a good quote to leave people with. And the one I have is, we have the power to make people feel good through what we do. Whether it's we make something that's, beneficial to someone, it helps them out, or just for a split second it makes them laugh, makes them happy, or as you've come through the various stages of, developing your idea, and you're working on various projects, and you're learning every step of the way, maybe you can take the time to help someone who's just starting out on that path. And yeah, whatever you do, whether you make something useful, make something funny, or just help people, that is worth getting stuck in and working towards. definitely. Just be kind. That's all it is. That's running through all this talk. Just be kind, and you never know where these interactions and these avenues and these doors that are opening, you never know where they might lead you. And at the end of it, I thank them for their time, and we open the floor to questions. And yeah, basically, usually it's, where can I get hold of a woggle or whatever, but usually I come prepared for that sort of thing. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, where I post my various projects, whether they're successful or not, in the hope that it might inspire people. But yeah, that's my side project talk that I give to schools, and hopefully I have some new projects to add to it soon. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.